Hello, and welcome to the latest installment in our UXDX online series. I hope you're as excited as I am for the talks that we have this evening. But before we jump into those, I want to give a very quick introduction to UXDX and why we run these sessions. So at UXDX, our main challenge is that we feel the world is full of bad software. And what I mean by that is not software that doesn't technically check the box for being able to do things, but it's the experience of using it. So I always come back to the banking example. I have one of the new modern digital first banks as well as a traditional old bank. And the app experience is worlds apart, even though they technically do the same things. And I know which one I'll reach for and therefore do more business with. Now, our mission is to help companies build an environment that can't build bad software. And why that's our mission is because we don't believe it's down to the people. We think that there's amazing talent everywhere, but it's often the processes and the ways of working that people are forced to follow that end up in delivering bad outcomes. And that's why we want to focus on how can teams work better together, break down the silos between product, UX, design, and dev so everybody works together to build the product that's right. So how we believe we can help companies is shift away from the waterfall or the common water scrum fall approach of a lot of companies to move towards really empowered product teams where they own the outcome and try to iterate on the software to make sure it's right for the customer. Now that's really easy to say, but it's really hard to do in practice. And that's where these talks come in. So nobody's going to explain the entire way of reorientating your software development process, but we've asked people to share how they're changing the ways that they work and the things that they're doing to improve their kind of ways of working and get better outcomes. So please do, if you have questions, we'll have lots of time for Q&A after each of the talks. So please do write your questions as you think of them as we're going through, and we'll put those questions through to the speakers. So you can write them on whichever platform you're watching, and we'll collate those through. But that's enough about me. You're not here to listen to me speak. So I'd like to introduce our first speakers for this evening, which is Jeremy and Ketan. And they will be talking about insights from Liberty Mutual's corporate UX team, where they're mastering measurement practices. So I would like to welcome Ketan and Jeremy to the stage. Over to you guys.
Well, thank you so much, Rory. Appreciate the introduction. Thank you all for joining us for a brief session here to talk a little bit about our efforts in mastering measurement. I'm excited to share with you how our internally facing corporate functions team started to level up our ability to apply UX metrics to our work. So like Rory mentioned, we've refined this presentation down, so we should have plenty of time at the end to answer questions. Feel free to drop questions into your chat. We'll pick out some to answer at the end. For now, let's jump right into our time together. Ketan?
Thanks, Jeremy. So we'll quickly go through our agenda. So we're going to begin with our quick introductions. Then we'll give a little bit of background of why hard metrics in Liberty Mutual and how did we get involved. Then we'll also talk about workshop prep and the structure. And then Jeremy will talk about the outcomes and the takeaways. So a quick introduction about me. My name is Ketan Galhotra. I'm a senior product designer in Liberty Mutual, and I live in Boston, Massachusetts.
And again, my name is Jeremy Rook. I'm a principal user researcher located in Lansing, Michigan.
So before we begin, we wanted to check with all of you, how many of you tried creating a measurement plan before? And unfortunately, we cannot see the responses here. But if you are saying yes, then again, next question is how many of you felt overwhelmed or not sure where to begin? So maybe you have done this before, or maybe you haven't, but creating a measurement plan can be an overwhelming experience. And trust me, you are not alone in this. There are many UX professionals who struggle with creating a measurement plan or feel overwhelmed. Hopefully the knowledge we share in this presentation today is helpful for you to get started. So we wanted to begin with a quick intro to HEART framework. For those of you who don't know, Google came up with HEART framework, and HEART stands for happiness, engagement, adoption, retention, and task success. So, by aligning goals, signals, and metrics along these dimensions, this framework can help you make a clear plan to measure a website, a tool, or a service. So that's a very basic intro to Heart Framework. Now the question is, why Heart Framework in Liberty Mutual? So Liberty Mutual has three main areas: corporate functions, investments, and insurance. As you can see on the image on the right of the slide, Heart Framework is flexible enough to be used in different domains and or in specialized applications. The Heart Framework also helps product teams align their goals with their business objectives, and it also helps them prioritize the most important metrics for their product. So, for these reasons, the leadership decided to use this framework to meet the organization data measurement needs. And we also wanted to give a little bit of background of our UX team. Our UX team supports all internal tools that is under corporate functions and investments. Our team has grown a lot in size in the past couple of years. I believe we went from a team of 6 to, at this point, we are at 22. And we have also made broad impact across the organization with various levels of UX maturity. Although our team has really talented designers and researchers, we also learned that our team also has limited UX measurement experience. So how did Jeremy and I got involved? So first of all, we are not experts when it comes to data measurement. Jeremy and I both have experience of creating measurement plans at our previous jobs. Last year, one of our team goal was to learn more about UX measurement plans and frameworks. So we volunteered to help the team learn about measurement frameworks, including HARD. Jeremy and I decided to run a half-day workshop with the team to get them introduced to like various frameworks and how to set up a measurement plan. So this was the biggest question we had. How can we make it easier for the UX team to learn about UX measurement? I will talk about our approach in the next two slides. So we wanted the workshop to be engaging and useful. But before we decide the workshop content, we also wanted to understand how comfortable is our team with data. So we decided to run a short survey. As you can see the screenshot of one of the questions we asked in the survey. This survey really helped us in painting a better picture of where our team stands when it comes to understanding and measuring data. Then we also wanted to see if anyone in Liberty has tried something similar before. And luckily, we found someone who has tried running data measurement training workshop with their team. So they shared their experience of running the workshop and what worked well, what didn't work well. All of this information was really helpful for us. Then along with it, we also wanted to give the team a real problem to work on than a made up one. We contacted various teams across the organization, and one UX director agreed to partner with us. That UX director's team has researched and tested a new product, and they want to measure its impact once it goes into production. So Jeremy and I felt that this is the perfect problem for our team that can work on during the workshop. And lastly, we wanted to work on the resources. We wanted to train the team about understanding and capturing data, and also to inform them not just to rely on the framework. There are many data framework available. Sorry, there are many data measurement frameworks available. Our main intention was to tell them, learn what you want to capture first. And it's okay if a certain metric doesn't fit the hard framework or whatever framework they are planning to use. And along with the prep, then we set up the structure of the workshop. First of all, we went through the basics, we went through the benefits of the hard framework, limitations, and we also uh, informed the team and guided the team about how to set up a uh, basic measurement plan using hard framework. And secondly, then we invited our partners, as you can see over here, data analysts. They talked about how UX and data can partner up when it comes to creating measurement plan. And the UX director, along with other team members of their team, shared the real problem with us. And once the team was introduced to the problem, the team was asked to workshop solutions, and a bunch of instructions were shared with them, as you can see on the screenshot on the right of the slide. And the last instruction for them was, once they are done creating a measurement map, please share your prototype measurement plan at the end of the workshop. And now Jeremy will talk about the outcomes.
All right, thank you again, Ketan. We were glad to have such good collaborative participation and involvement from our partners across the organization. But at the end of the day, what mattered most is what our team got out of the session itself and how it's propelled us to be more successful within our work. The outcomes of this are still unfolding, but there are some clear successes and opportunities for improvement based on our experience running the workshop. As is sometimes true, we learn more from teaching a subject than we do from the learning itself, and we definitely found that to be true in this case. In reflection, some things to be ready for if you do a training like this are as follows. Be aware of other conferences, courses, trainings, or team events that might be going on around you. We had a deadline of October to complete this training and share it with the team. We got a little too close to that deadline and ended up having to put this back to back with a different team event. Everyone felt burnt out and like they were playing catch up for the rest of the quarter. If you're trying to get people to try new things, that's not a good place to start. Due to time constraints, we had to condense the training down from what really should have been 8 hours to a 4-hour time frame. And this posed challenges, especially with our participants being spread across 4 different time zones in the United States. Don't compromise on how much time you think it will take to introduce this concept to your team. One of the more predictable responses from heavily worked designers was them feeling overwhelmed with the expectation of taking on more work. We emphasized that our goal was to provide templates and support for initiating conversations rather than burdening them with additional tasks. Ketan and I also wanted to communicate that we're here to assist in any way that we can. The final unfortunate reality of working in a large enterprise is that there are varying levels of maturity. So not all teams are equally prepared for implementing measurement plans. Some have data analysts, so they're very ready to start down this path. Others are unsure of how even to get started. We've been very fortunate to have a supportive data analyst named Mike, who's helped us advocate for user metrics organization-wide. Despite reporting to a single work stream, Mike has been collaborating on data measurement efforts all across different work streams for the improvement of the greater organization. One big win coming out of this session is that we're starting to see an uptick in the belief of value of user experience work beyond what it has been historically positioned as. In a short time, we've been involved in creating 5 different measurement plans across different work streams that focus on human-centered success metrics. This has elevated our team's role and made us leaders in some areas. We're proud of this growth over the last 8 months. In the data technology space, we've guided the product team in identifying the most important user metrics while steering them away from vanity metrics. We have created a roadmap and aligned on primary and secondary measurements for a new tentpole product that the product organization as well as engineers are working to roll out. Through this work, we've built on an existing relationship by showing what UX can bring to increase overall product maturity. We've also established ongoing connections with partners who are interested in experience measurement across the org. While maturity in measurement is not equal across work streams, we are beginning to make inroads to integrating into the work via our data analyst partners like Mike. We also see that there are other parts of the organization that are beginning to soften or warm up to the idea of engaging with us on creating these measurement plans, as you can see from this email. And finally, the trainings provided us with a platform to objectively track the impact of our experiences on the organization that we work within. We're creating accountability and objectives that focus on impact regardless of what framework is used. We've also developed resources like templates and measurement briefs to empower designers, researchers, and other partners like product and dev to take their first steps towards measurement maturity. All of this adds up to an increased focus on the impact of measurement thinking rather than just the implementation of metrics. We continue to move forward from this training by socializing the resources that we have available, such as this measurement brief that we created for our designers to use in conversations with product owners. Resources like this are a great jumpstart to conversations that eventually product owners will take up the cause for typically. Our hope is that we can move from focusing on frameworks and onto the impact that measurement can provide. By focusing on outcomes first, we believe we'll create better systems for our employees to use and overall make a higher impact on our company's success. You can see from this screenshot, there's others in the company thinking the same way, combining frameworks to fit the needs of their specific use case. From there, we hope to create an expectation of baseline metrics across our entire, very wide-ranging product footprint. This includes creating accountability within our own team for advocating for user metrics. We also continue to build cross-discipline relationships, like expanding efforts within our data organization and moving that into other spots in the company. This strong relationship with our data org leads to a stronger desire for increased involvement of UX in defining early work. What does an engagement funnel look like for an internal tool? What are the correct user behaviors to track? These sorts of things. The work that we've done in this data organization has led to a positive relationship that, again, we hope to see replicated across the other work streams. As you can see from this brief chat excerpt, one of the data product owners that we built the measurement plan for is just a little excited to have us on board and figuring this out with them. We see developing these measurement plans as a clear path to create stronger partnerships with product and engineering teams. So if you're going to take a screenshot of one page, make it this one, but wait until all the points are up on the screen. So the first thing to think of as you take something away from this is there's dozens of reasons why people don't get started on flexing their measurement muscles. Ketan already said that neither of us are data experts. The first thing that you should take away from this is to get started. It can sometimes be easiest by starting from where your comfort level is, along with your teams. Are they excited by the prospect of measurement? Concerned? Do you have people on your team who have done this or something like this before? I think my team is probably tired of me saying this, but I really cannot stress this enough. Frameworks are made to help you, not to constrain you. The framework, in other words, is made for the work rather than the other way around. Maybe Heart is the right fit for you and your use case. Maybe it's Nielsen Norman Group's Castle framework. Perhaps it's VMware's user framework, or some combination of the three, or none of those at all. Next, find other people who want to help. I promise that they're out there, so start asking around. I bet there are folks in whatever organization you're in who are willing to dive into the deep end with you if it means furthering the practice of making better informed, data-backed decisions. UXers may not always have the skill set for implementing measurements, but we all have the skill sets to set up conversations and influence like-minded partners. As you think about how to best serve in your context, start lowering barriers to entry. Are there documents you can create for people to reference? Can you set up meetings to help product folks understand the key goals and behaviors that they should be measuring? Whatever you do to decrease the cost to designers and other partners is going to return its value. And finally, as a data curious person, one of the best things that you can do is be available. Answer questions. Find answers to questions that you don't have an answer to. Walk through the resources that you have available. Help people see through the fog that can so quickly cover and prevent you from addressing the real needs that measurement can assist with. That does it for our time here presenting. I want to thank you all for your attention. Please feel free to reach out to Ketan and I for more information. At this point, we'll have plenty of time now for questions. So again, feel free to submit those through chat if there are any. And I'll pause now to see if we have any come in. Thank you.
Listen, thank you very much, Jeremy and Ketan. It was really kind of nice dive into the practicalities of how you put these in place, because often people will just say, oh, just use Heart or just use pirate metrics. But it's harder to actually go and then think about how to do that in practice.
Absolutely.
So as Jeremy and Ketan said, please do post your questions. We've been having some kind of comments and some people were engaging with your questions at the start. But we do have a question from Alex, and he's just looking for a bit more context. So he said, if you're able/willing to share, what is your UX team composition? So designer, research, other roles.
Yeah, great question. So more broadly, without sharing too much, I'm not sure what I should and shouldn't share. We have a really diverse set of UX teams across the organization. So as mentioned, our team works exclusively on internally facing tools. There are other teams that are focusing on the insurance experience, purchasing insurance online, purchasing it through a broker, whatever it might be. So our context is really exclusively for internal tooling to improve the employee experience. In terms of our team's composition, it is the vast majority are designers. We have 1 content strategist, 4 researchers, and 2 UX dev positions.
And sorry, when you say UX dev, are they actually front-end developers, or what do you mean by the dev part of the UX dev?
Unfortunately, I don't have a great answer to that. It's a relatively new position. We've recently filled the second one. Ketan, do you have any additional visibility into that?
Yes. So I don't have the visibility on the new person we hire, but the other person we have, that person is a front end developer.
Okay. Yeah, the term design engineer I know is getting a lot more popularity these days. So maybe it's in a similar vein. It's often front end rather than back end.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, and you did mention work streams. So is that what you were talking about in terms of your internal facing online broker, or do you then subdivide those into deeper work streams?
It is substantially more divided than that. Well, so when you think about the functions of an insurance company, it's easy to associate that with, I'm going out, I'm getting a quote online, I'm submitting a claim, maybe I'm having to make a change to my policy. If you own a business, you may be familiar with the process of acquiring business insurance, which is a separate category of work. But if you think about all of the underlying work that happens to get you to that point, there has to be legal processes in order for claims to be submitted, reviewed, and completed. There have to be contract reviews done. There's an entire side of finance that is the unknown side of insurance that all has to be done for insurance to exist. On top of that, there's things like human resources, technology, data as an organization. And these are the organization work streams that I'm referring to.
Brilliant. And the last question on this, are the UX people embedded in those work streams, or do you have UX as a separate kind of function and then the work stream developers separate?
Yeah, great question. We operate on a matrixed model. So designers are often embedded into a specific work stream. but report up through a centralized structure. So all of us will report up to a couple of different UX directors, but will be ostensibly embedded into a team for a given amount of time. On top of that, the researchers are a centralized shared service across all of the different work streams that we support.
Yeah, so it's sort of a mixed structure we have over here.
Excellent. We have a couple of more questions coming in. I love the idea of socialized resources and all the preliminary work. What is the biggest learning in the preliminary work before bringing people together for measurement thinking?
Biggest learning.
You know, it's a really good question when you have to pause to answer.
Yeah.
So, Ketan, take some time to think about it. I'll take a stab at it first. I think preliminarily, as Ketan and I set out to create a workshop to bring others, up to speed and start to upskill in this area, the big thing that I recognized in terms of resourcing was a lot of times the questions or the assumptions that UXers were coming into this work with was, well, we're going to, of course, we're going to track user frustration or time on task. And what we really wanted to do was give our designers space to back up a step from that and say, okay, before we go into the specific measurements, what are the specific outcomes or what are the missions that these tools are supposed to be doing? All of our work is internal, which means we don't actually want people to spend time on certain tasks. There's some things that have to be done internally that should be efficient over everything else. They shouldn't be necessarily tracked on whether they make someone happy. No one is happy if they have to fill out a specific legal form internally. That doesn't drive joy, but we can track efficiency. So the metrics that we then create from that downstream are going to be impacted by understanding the context of the measurement that you're deciding on.
And do you have anything to add, Ketan? Or?
Yeah, so I think another biggest learning was like, along with the resources, how do we equip the designers in the team to be comfortable to have a conversation with our stakeholders regarding creating a data measurement plan, even if our designers have not done it, but how do we give them enough confidence? So having these kind of resources that we put together and along with the workshop, I believe really helped our team, as Jeremy showed in the presentation, that from 0 we went to 5 measurement plans in a year. So that was a big win for us.
Awesome. And I guess we have time for maybe one or two more. Is there an easy way for the teams to share ideas outside of workshops, given that a lot of teams are now kind of working in an async fashion? Or do you still think that it's worth just bringing everybody together for that workshop?
Yeah, I think a lot of that's pretty heavily dependent on the overall level of measurement maturity within your team. So like Ketan said, we went from 6 people to over 20 in the span of a couple of years. We were collecting people faster than we were understanding their skill sets. And so what we ended up with was a very wide range of comfort with measurement. As a result of that, we wanted to remove the lowest barriers for everyone. And if you're trying to do that, I think some sort of synchronous activity is probably the best way to go about it. If there is a larger mix or people are further along in terms of maturity, there may be opportunities to do something asynchronously, but I would not have been confident in the success of that for our specific context.
And along with, I would say, also depends on the team culture. For us, we knew that workshop will work better. But if you can think of some other activity based on your team culture will work, go for it. Again, we are UXers. We like to iterate, experiment, and see what happens. If the outcome is not expected, try a different way of then sharing the measurement stuff.
Brilliant. I love it. Using your own process of iterative approach to your work as well. Excellent. Well, that actually brings us to time. So I just want to thank you once again, Jeremy and Ketan, for sharing your kind of process of how you've helped roll out measurement across Liberty Insurance.
Yeah.
Is it Liberty
Happy to
Insurance?
share. Liberty Mutual Insurance. That's right.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rory.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So up next, we have Anna O'Connor, who is the lead experience designer manager at Verizon. And Anna will be talking about how to design products for the next generation. So I would like to welcome Anna to the stage. Welcome, Anna.
Awesome. Thank you, Rory. Thank you, UXDX, for having me. Super excited to be with you all today. Like Rory mentioned, my presentation will be focused on how to design products for growth and the next generation. Before we get started, I'd like to give a brief introduction about myself, as well as spend some time talking about market trends, as well as consumer trends for 2024, and how that can translate to designing for growth. So a little bit about me. Like Rory mentioned, I'm a lead experience designer at Verizon. Prior to me joining Verizon, I've also had the opportunity to work at both Paramount and Lowe's. I have over 10 years of experience designing both B2B and B2C products. This is ranging from wearables to digital apps, as well as journeys. My passion lies in team collaboration, as well as scaling design teams and driving product growth and innovation. Before we get started, I'd love to ask a few questions. And for those that are listening live, I'd love to hear from you in the chat. And I'd like to ask you to think about a product or service that you use on a regular basis. This could be something you use every day, perhaps every week, or even every other week, but something that you use quite regularly. And I'd like to ask if you've used that product 5 or maybe even 10 years ago. And if you did, was it the same experience that you know today? Most likely, it probably evolved in some way, right? I think when we think about successful products, especially product evolution, whether that's a 5 to 10-year time period or perhaps even greater, the most successful products are the ones that adapt and evolve. And so that leads me to saying that successful products do evolve in a meaningful way. To the right, I have a GIF of the bike evolution, which was the bike, for those that don't know, was invented in 1817, so it was a little over 200 years ago. And believe it or not, didn't have pedals. It was just 2 wheels and a wooden frame, so not too much, but I think over time, this evolved into the bikes that we know today, which are used for recreation, fitness, transportation. So when we think about successful products that evolve, I think the bike is actually a really good example of a product that it's simple, efficient, but it's also adaptable. The products of today may not be the products of tomorrow. How many of you have used floppy disks or know what a floppy disk is? I'm sure I still have a collection somewhere in my closet of floppy disks that I used when I was in school. But again, I think going back to product evolution, some products may become obsolete if they are not evolving. And floppy disk eventually going from that to flash drives and portable hard drives to now cloud storage is an example of a product that became obsolete. Incremental change does contribute to product growth. So rather than focusing on radical changes in a short period of time, it's key to focus on the small continuous improvements over the long term that can eventually lead to substantial benefits and sustained growth. By taking that incremental approach, we have the ability to consistently refine, optimize, and ensure that our products remain competitive in the market. Which leads me to talking about market trends. So AI is a very hot topic, and I'm sure that will continue to be quite a hot topic. And we're seeing that, there's a lot of investment happening in this space across various industries. So while this was initially valued at $60 billion in 2022, there are projections that investments in AI will reach over 300 billion by 2026. So there's definitely a priority from organizations across various industries to invest in the adoption of AI. We're seeing that as well when it comes to enhanced interactions. So thinking specifically about NLP, which stands for natural language processing, this has enabled sophisticated human-like interactions. When we think of ChatGPT or even Google Assistant, these are some examples of products that are using AI, specifically NLP, as well as industry adoption. AI has expanded and will continue to expand across various industries, with healthcare anticipated to lead the way by 2030. And some of those industries and ways that AI is coming to be is, like we talked about, natural language processing, but also thinking about personalization and recommendations, design, healthcare, as well as customer service. When it comes to NLP, this encompasses human-like interactions, really to provide valuable assistance and seamless interactions to customers. So thinking about ChatGPT, which I'm sure most of you hopefully are familiar with, Google Assistant and Amazon Rufus, they also recently introduced, which is in beta. So as this technology continues to evolve, I think we can expect to see more sophisticated and personalized interactions moving forward. When it comes to personalization recommendations, again, I think AI is definitely dominant in this area, and we're seeing that across, in particular, Spotify, Meta, and Google Photos. So Spotify has actually introduced AI for their playlist curation, as well as DJ recommendations based on your listening history, genres, and even the time of day that you're listening to certain music. Meta's AI focuses on easy to access recommendations right from their search tool. And Google Photos has actually integrated AI recommendations based on your photo collections and memories. So being able to help customers title their content. When it comes to design, I think this is a relatively new breakthrough. We're seeing that, there are tools utilizing AI to actually help designers through text to UI as well as image to UI, and Galileo is one of the examples. So this image is just helping to demonstrate what that looks like. So by writing out what it is that we're trying to create, whether it's a checkout screen or profile page, it's actually able to generate images to highlight that. Figma as well. I think this was introduced recently at FigCon a few months ago. So they're also in a similar fashion, looking to introduce text to UI as well. When it comes to healthcare, AI Doc in particular is specialized in assisting radiologists to provide advanced diagnostic solutions for medical imaging. And they're accomplishing this through AI-powered image analysis. So thinking about, CAT scans, MRIs, X-rays to detect a wide range of conditions. And this is really helping radiologists in terms of, the severity of the findings, but also bringing efficiencies through time management and trying to minimize human error. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity within the healthcare space for AI to grow. And lastly, customer service. Zendesk in particular has designed AI to help organizations streamline their customer support operations, as well as improving customer satisfaction. This includes providing automated and tailored responses using NLP, providing 24/7 support, and leveraging customer feedback to address any pain points or issues. So across these various industries, we're really seeing AI grow and make headway in various spaces. Another market trend that is coming up is growth in connectivity, particularly when it comes to smart home and smart home products. There is increased investment in this space as well, with forecasts projected to reach over 150 billion by 2025. So this is definitely a growing market. And in terms of interoperability, we're seeing that these ecosystem integrations really help provide universal connectivity and device management. So thinking about keeping all your products and managing them in one place, as well as centralization. So being able to control all your home devices remotely, as well as automate some routines like turning off lights, adjusting thermostats, locking doors. So even while you're on the go, being able to have centralized access to managing your products. And some examples of this would be Google Home. So Google Home is actually utilizing a voice-activated AI assistant to interact with customers. This could be on a wide range of functions, including home automation, entertainment, and more. Its compatibility with a variety of smart home devices makes this appealing to customers who are looking for seamless integration and connectivity. Their product suite includes the Nest Mini, Home Max, and the Nest Hub Max. Similarly, the Apple HomeKit allows for centralized control of various devices such as an Apple TV, iPad, iPhone, or even HomePod. Remote access also gives customers the ability to monitor, manage their home, even when they are physically away. And lastly, consolidated subscriptions and services. I'm sure I'm not the only one who has multiple subscriptions and services simultaneously, but we are seeing that there is an expansion to really consolidate some of the offerings that are being presented to customers when we think about providing an expanded offering that has the opportunity to appeal to wider audiences that may have varying interests. Cost savings and retention is also another area to note. So really looking to minimize some of those individualized costs through bundling services in order to provide customers with more value for their dollar. Customers who see the value are less likely to cancel. And lastly, choice overload. Managing cognitive overload for customers through minimizing the array of options they have into consolidated and distinct experiences. And some examples of that are within the food, travel, and entertainment categories. And like I said, I am guilty of having more than one of these subscriptions and services. But I think, again, there's a lot of options, and it really makes it challenging for customers to choose which products they want to use. And so when we think about bundling and consolidation, in particular with Apple One and even Disney, they've made it crystal clear to help customers in their choices with cost retention, but also cost savings and retention, but also giving these distinct choices for customers to make an easier decision. Now let's spend some time talking a little bit about consumer trends, which also has some direct influence to the market trends we just talked about. Starting with personalization, again, we're seeing that consumers are really looking to use products that help drive some of their experiences in terms of tracking their behavior, their interests, their preferences. And a couple examples I've included here are Netflix and Spotify. So again, consumers are really looking for tailored experiences that cater to their specific needs and behaviors. Value and affordability as well. So thinking about, value for the dollar and retaining customers, I think consumers, especially now more than ever, are really equipped to, really compare prices, products, find the best deals before deciding on what they want to use, what product or service they want to use. And by providing high value and high impact, customers are more likely to stick and choose your product. So a couple of examples here are Walmart Plus and Amazon. So they've both incorporated different reward systems that really entice and enable customers to keep using their products, but also know that they're getting something in return. So that's definitely important to note. And lastly, trust and transparency. I think especially now with the incorporation of AI and adoption of AI, and I think the growth in overall technology, consumers do have growing concerns over privacy and data security as technology evolves. So that's something I think definitely as designers and experienced professionals, we need to be keeping top of mind. So products and services do have an important role to play in not only being transparent, but helping to build that consumer trust. And a couple of examples here are Google and Chase, really, giving tips to customers, but also educating them on how they can keep their data safe and secure. And just to summarize, brands do need to adapt to remain competitive as consumers seek meaningful, affordable, and ethical products. Especially as we're looking at market trends as well as consumer trends, the products that successfully evolve are keeping those things top of mind, paying attention to consumer behaviors, but also addressing the needs of today and anticipating the needs of tomorrow. So how does this translate to designing for growth? Well, I think as designers, we need to know when to pivot and change direction. The products that we're working on are not meant to be stagnant. I think we all have a responsibility to keep on top of everything that's happening around us, and really leverage that and understand what should be influencing our products, as well as paying attention to the market and determining our strategy. So keeping those things top of mind to, like I said, influence the products that we are working on and creating, as well as designing for growth and scalability. We should be having a growth mindset. Regardless of the things that we're working on short-term and long-term, we should always be thinking forward and incorporating that in anything that we're working on, while realizing that changing customer needs are natural. Customers, the pain points that they may have today may not be the same pain points they have tomorrow. And so, again, thinking about product evolution, those things need to be kept top of mind. Some principles for enabling growth, like some of the things we just talked about, is really being able to adapt to an ever-changing market. So being flexible, being able to see what's happening around us and how our products fit in this space. Solving for evolving customer needs and expectations. So like we talked about, customers will change their behaviors over time, and we need to be able to address that, but also adapt to those changing needs and expectations, as well as factoring the adoption of new trends. So keeping that back of mind as well. And lastly, preserving the core identity of our product. So regardless of whichever way, shape, or form that takes, we need to know what value does our product bring? What are the problems that we're trying to solve? What are the goals that we have? And by being able to answer those questions, we can easily evolve our product to continue to grow and be successful. And lastly, a shared vision is key to product growth. In order for us to continue our product strategy and evolution, we have to partner with our teams, both on the technology and product side as well as design. Without that shared vision, it's very hard for us to be successful. So that's something we always have to strive towards, is building that partnership in addition to being aware of market trends, being aware of consumer behaviors, and what are the goals and value of our products that we're working on. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to connect on LinkedIn for those that are interested, and I'm happy to answer any questions that may come through in the chat.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Anna. I really enjoyed that kind of, the bicycle and a few of the examples of how things have changed. It's kind of interesting to think about it over time.
Yeah, definitely. It's over 200 years. It's very crazy. But yeah, there's so many good examples of products that have changed and evolved over time. And it's really interesting to see that evolution.
Brilliant. So as Anna said, if you have any questions, post them on whichever platform you're watching this on, and I'll pass those questions through to Anna. But I'm going to start with one, because what I've noticed, and maybe it's just me getting a bit old, but the trend towards what they're calling enshittification, where products are evolving, but not necessarily in a consumer-friendly way. So the examples that I think it was Cory Doctorow coined that term, it's kind of like YouTube's unskippable 30-second ads, or it's Amazon's product catalog seems to be getting cheaper, cheaper quality, but more expensive. So there's all these things that kind of brought these products, their initial glory is now being chipped away at. So is there anything there in that kind of designing for future where designers can try help against that, or is the economic value always going to win out?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, I mean, I think this is where building those partnerships is really important, because to me that sounds like business goals, but also, you know, we have to keep, to your point, Rory, the customer top of mind, and what's right in that situation for the customer. And so I think building partnerships is key, as well as understanding what is the core value of our product, while also keeping in mind a growth mindset. So how can we grow our products revenue wise, but also how are we, you know, as customer experience professionals, strategizing our product to improve or enhance in the future? So I think it's very difficult to answer that question, but I would say building partnerships is key, as well as, you know, prioritizing what are the things we're trying to accomplish short term and long term.
Brilliant. The way I think about it as well is it opens the door for a new entrant as well. So like these companies are so big, I guess they think they're untouchable. But by making their service worse, it gives an opportunity for a more customer friendly focused competitor to make inroads.
Mm-hmm.
On consolidation, your slide there with all of those different options, to me, it's not consolidating at all. It's in fact kind of fragmenting more. Like I'm not seeing with the food delivery, there's so many food delivery options, and it seems there's more kind of continuously cropping up. Like every so often, some of them merge, but similarly with like I've now got Netflix, Disney, all of those kind of separate ones. So they're consolidating within regions, but do you see the trend being there will be more market consolidation, or that we're still going to see that heavily fragmented approach?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, so that is a good point. I think the slide with the categories is the opposite. That's not consolidated. But I think in particular with entertainment and home products, we're seeing that consolidation. So I would expect that this may cascade into some of the other categories, just based on what we're seeing in terms of consumer behavior and cost savings. So this is an assumption based on what we're seeing, but I think it could very well happen, just given the consumer behaviors and what we're seeing both in entertainment and home category products.
Okay, and there's no kind of magical insight we can get into Verizon if they're launching something here?
I don't know how much I can speak to that, but I will say that, yeah, you know, within the Verizon ecosystem, we do support a wide category of different products, and that is something that we are looking into. I'm not sure how much more I can say on that topic, but I think it is exciting that, you know, there are so many products in different product categories, and how we're seeing that evolve over the period of time.
Brilliant. I was hoping it was worth a shot, but fair enough. You mentioned meaningful, affordable, ethical. And one of the things that always crops to mind when I hear that is that's one of those things that if you ask somebody research, you're kind of like, what's important to you? And they'll say those kind of things. But behavior is often very different to what people actually say. So how much of that are you seeing is real trends? And I use the example of fast fashion, which is the fastest growing segment of fashion at the moment. And that's the furthest thing from ethical. Yet most people will say, oh, ethical is very important to me.
Yeah, I'm taking a moment to think about your question. Yeah, I mean, Sorry, Rory, can you repeat the question?
No, sorry, it was
Maybe
very long.
rephrase it in a different way.
So yeah, it's how much, when you're saying the trend is towards meaningful, affordable, ethical, is that actually just people saying kind of, oh, this is how I think I'll behave, versus when you observe their actual behavior, they're not in alignment with what they're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is always going to be something that comes up, and I've seen this with, testing as well. But I think the behavior is what's key, and how different is that from what customers are actually saying? Is there a big difference? Is there any correlation? So I think that at a broad level needs to be taken on a case by case basis. But I think seeing what customers are actually doing is key, because those are the actions that they're actually taking, regardless of what they're saying. So I think both need to be taken into account when we think about brands and how they need to evolve to address some of these consumer behaviors, like value and affordability, and being ethical, and providing that trust and transparency. So I think we should be paying attention to consumer behavior and see how does that correlate to what customers are saying. So I think we need to see, is there a big gap there, or is there a relationship there?
Brilliant. Yeah, it always reminds me of, there was an ice cream study, and they asked people, and people said, oh, my favorite were these kind of fancy flavors. They said, just take an ice cream on your way out. And everybody just went for kind of normal vanilla style plain ice creams when they were able to just choose whatever they wanted. So, but yeah, I think that actually brings us pretty close to time. So thank you, Anna, for sharing. And it's always great to kind of really think about what's next, what's this going to enable, particularly a lot of the generative AI and tools that are, there's just so much possibility about what could happen in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think we can help drive that change and drive that growth. And we should definitely always be looking to what's to come and what's in the future. And thank you so much, Rory, for having me. And thank you, UXDX, and hope to have the opportunity again in the future.
Excellent. We actually, just as I was talking, got another question in. So I think we can squeeze one more in, even though I've already said my thanks.
Sure.
From Naomi, and she said, as we prepare for our products to grow, and as our users continue to grow in their skills, familiarity with the product, do you have any insights on balancing efforts to growth for new users versus expert users?
That is a good question. Yeah, I mean, I would say expert users, I'm assuming this is referring to current users, so current users of the products that we have. So, I mean, I think going back to, I think one of the first slides I shared, which was talking about incremental growth, I think that's key to product growth. I don't believe that we should be doing these radical changes personally. I think successful products should gradually evolve over time. So thinking about current users, expert users, as well as new users, it gives us that ability to build the relationships with new customers, as well as retaining and introducing these new experiences to current customers. So I think there's a balance that needs to happen there. And I think by taking that incremental approach, it gives us that opportunity.
Brilliant. Yeah, people don't like that kind of open up the application and everything's changed shock. So
I think yes, yeah, definitely a learning curve.
Brilliant. Well, now we are actually at time, so I want to thank you again for the final time this time, Anna, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Rory. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks. So that brings us to an end for our session today, but I do hope you enjoyed the talks. And one of the questions that we got during the day was, what does UXDX stand for? And it's user experience, developer experience, because we believe it takes a full team to be able to come up with ideas, research them, prototype them, but also develop them and get them in front of end customers and get that feedback so that you can iterate there. So we invite product, UX, design, dev to come and share how they're working, because we believe it's the interactions between all of those teams that actually helps avoid research sitting on shelves, avoid designers just being asked to make things look pretty, and avoid developers just being forced to build features they don't even like. But if you are interested, we have a main conference coming up in October in Dublin, and we'll have 50 speakers, 10 workshops, thousands of attendees. We also have one in US in May. So hopefully you can come and join us for that. But if not, I look forward to seeing you at the next UXDX online. And I just want to thank once again our speakers, Jeremy, Ketan, and Anna. And thank you for all attending. See you next time.